Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire.
What does asbestos management mean to you?
I used to really struggle with the asbestos management at my site, but now it's a breeze.
It used to be really expensive. I was paying loads, but now I've got my asbestos power team in place. It's so much easier.
Asbestos can be a pain in the arse if not handled right.
We had to stop the job because asbestos was discovered. Now we don't have that problem.
Asbestos management is easier than you think. Asbestos management. Be proactive, not reactive. Think about asbestos first, not last.
And now your hosts, best-selling authors and asbestos experts, Ian Stone and Neil Munro.
Welcome to the Asbestos Knowledge Empire. I'm Ian Stone.
I'm Neil Munro. So today,
We're talking about statistics.
yeah, and this is kind of, when we're recording this, we're probably about a month ahead in podcasts recording, but it's currently the 24th of November,
Yep.
which marks the 20th anniversary of their final prohibition of asbestos in the UK.
Yeah, that was when asbestos was finally banned and outlawed and stopped being used here in the UK.
So we thought we'd do kind of a bit of a review on where we are and where we've come from within the last 20 years and what effect that's had on the deaths surrounding asbestos-related diseases, and kind of go through the current figures that have been reported in October of this year.
Yeah, and also just highlight some of the things that we're still coming across as a business as well. I think we'll cover as well.
Yeah. But before that date, I don't know, some people who probably listen to this might think that wasn't a long time ago, but probably some of the younger ones, that does probably seem a long time ago, 20 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember it.
Yeah, it kind of remarks like just after we came into the industry, just after that, really, didn't we?
Yeah.
A few years after, but
Just before everybody's computers went dead in Y2K.
yes,
That didn't happen.
yeah. I was 19. Can you believe that? I was 19. I still feel 19.
You're still a child.
I know.
I've got some facts.
So what happened in 1999?
Right, so music-wise, King of My Castle was number one by Whamdoo Project.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers released their Californication album.
Yeah.
That's a good album. Yeah, it's one of their good ones. Stereophonics released Performance and Cocktails. Good album.
Yeah.
Films in 99. And
Here we go.
this one popped my head a little bit. Toy Story 2 was released.
Not the first one, the second one.
The second one was released in 99. This is where you start to feel bloody old.
Yeah.
The Matrix.
Oh, good film.
Yeah, with Keanu and Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, one of my all-time favourites.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you take the blue or the red pill?
Always a blue. Always a bluey.
Fight Club.
Fight Club, okay.
Yeah, that was
I wouldn't
released.
put those two on the same.
No, I wouldn't have. And then I've got 3 stats about tech. So Nokia's 3210 mobile was released. It was released.
That's my first work phone.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous.
I know.
That was released. And like we're on iPhone, 27 now, whatever it is.
Yeah, but did you actually know, like, if you think about their iPhone, it actually only came out in 2007, first iPhone.
Really?
So that's when real smartphone
Yeah, no,
technology
you're
started.
You're right, because we had the crap Nokias, then we had the crap Blackberries, and then we had the crap iPhones.
Yeah.
First USB flash drives were developed.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now they're kind of gone. No one really uses USBs anymore.
Everyone's using like Dropbox or
Yeah.
SharePoint or whatever.
Yeah. It's all cloud storage now, isn't it?
And then the final one, again, this kind of popped my head. The first wiki was introduced, and that was WikiWeb.
Random.
So it wasn't even Wikipedia.
No.
It was WikiWeb.
So where did you get these facts from, Ian?
I got them from our book.
We've never actually talked about the book on the podcast.
No, we
have
haven't. We haven't.
I don't think we've ever mentioned it, have we?
No.
No.
We probably mention it every single time, but we forget. No, yeah, we wrote a book called Asbestos, the Dark Arts. And in there, that's where we got those facts from. It just kind of takes a lot of the legislation and regulations that surround asbestos, and we've kind of cut through the crap and made it easier to read for everybody, rather than you having to become an expert in it to fully understand it. We've kind of made it a lot more manageable, a lot more easy for people to take on board, I think.
Yeah.
That's where those beautiful little facts came
Yeah.
from.
And if you want to get a copy of that, if you go to asbestosdarkarts.com, you'll get details on where you can purchase that from. And it's basically from Amazon, and you can get it hard copy, electronic copy. So if you've got a Kindle or anything like that, and you can also get the audio version of it.
Yeah, there's an audiobook version.
So if you've got Audible, you can download that. If you've got a subscription, you can have that one for free.
Yeah. Right, so we're in 1999.
99. John Prescott actually signed
Did
the
he
bill
really?
for that. Yeah.
Okay.
And the UK brought it in. It came into force on the 24th of November, and it was actually 5 years ahead of the European deadline. So Europe sort of
Lagging
commissioned
behind.
that. But it was 5 years ahead of when they actually said it needs to be done by.
Okay.
And that sort of was the final ban. So that was only cryostyle that was being used at that time, because amosite and crocodile was banned in 1985.
Yeah.
So that was the final prohibition of asbestos in this country.
So, given that it was 20 years ago, that's when it was
20
banned.
years ago, yeah.
And the HC have just released their latest statistics
For deaths.
for deaths. Should we run through some of those now? And
So you might think, okay, well, we're not using it anymore. So 20 years ago, so surely there's not a problem. That's what people think. But as people in the industry kind of know, that's not the case. And the legacy surrounding asbestos will go on for years and years and years. When you look at some of the asbestos-related cancers, so mesothelioma and lung cancer, there is a long latency between first exposure and you actually developing any sort of signs of disease. And what we mean by that legacy, there's a big time frame. So, it can be from 10 to 50, 60 years before.
yeah, exactly. It's huge. A huge gap where after being exposed, you can then develop an illness from that.
And this is why, although we're 20 years into the final prohibition, we're still not into, we're not coming out at the end of, when we were really, heavily using asbestos.
No.
When we came into industry, didn't we?
Yeah.
The peak, it was perceived to be, we're going to hit the peak in 2010.
Yeah. And when we're in the industry, the peak was going to be around 4,000 deaths per year. 2010 was kind of the deadline, the cut-off point.
It was going to start coming down after that. That's what they...
2011, it should be less. 2012, it should be less.
Yeah, that's what the
and
predictions
so on.
were.
That was the predictions. But sadly, that's not the case. And the latest figures just prove that and show that. There's over 5,000 deaths per year at the moment.
Yep, so that has gone up.
It's increased, yeah.
They're projecting that end of 2020, so next year, that's the new, hopefully, peak prediction. And, the statisticians are hoping that, it's going to start coming down after that.
But, I mean, I don't know. Would they say something like a 95% confidence rate in that? I don't know what the confidence rate was last time, but from the fact that they've already said, right, 10 years ago, the deaths...
10 years is a long time, isn't it? When you actually think it's like, okay, we're going to stick another 10 years on that, it's kind of...
Well, I don't know. It's a funny one. It's like, it's kind of a long time, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like a decade, yes, a decade is a decade,
yeah.
right? But I don't know, when you look at the years of exposure and all the rest of it, to actually go, no, in 10 years, all right, we're out by 10 years, add another 10 years on, it'll be all right. But but essentially that's what they've said. Yeah. And it's like, but in that last 10 years, we've actually gone up 1,000 deaths per year.
Yeah. And do you know what worries me most about that? So the prohibition, 1999, the duty to manage came in 2002.
Yep.
Enforced, so legal, you have to do it. Everyone, non-domestic, has to do it. 2004, you're actually breaking the law.
Yeah, it came in 2002, didn't it? And then it was actually enforced from 2004. There was like that 2-year period of get your shit together.
And yet, we're now so many years on from that deadline, and we're still coming across
16
people,
years, something like that?
Yeah, we're still coming across clients that have no idea about their responsibilities regarding asbestos management.
They've not got a management plan.
Never had a survey.
Never had a survey.
Don't know what you're talking about.
They've not made an assessment.
Yeah. Today is the first day I knew that I've got to do it. That's why I'm getting in touch.
You what? Asbestos?
Yeah.
Since when? It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that we've got regulation in place and we are coming across companies, and some of them aren't that small. No. Coming across companies that it's like a new thing.
Multi-million pound companies that are going, well, we've never done this before. We've never been asked for this before.
Yeah, it's madness.
Who knows? Based on that fact, who knows that, when we hit 2020, the stats going to change and the peak's going to move further.
I really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, at the moment, I feel like I'd be very surprised in 2020, 2030 that the figures... Like, I really do bloody hope they come down.
Start coming down, yeah.
But like I say, the whole decade thing, 10,000 extra people have died on top of what they were already predicting in the last 10 years. And I don't know, a decade's a long time, but based on that fact of new people only discovering about asbestos
and
the fact the figures were wrong once, I don't know, it just puts cast doubt in my mind.
Yeah, so going back to the figures. So the latest figures relating to mesothelioma, which is asbestos-related cancer, we've got 2,526, and that's deaths recorded in 2017. And what they actually mirror to that is asbestos-related lung cancers. So they sort of match the figures to the mesotheliomas cases. So, you're looking at 2,500 lung cancers as well. So that's an awful lot.
Yeah.
Awful lot of people
It
dying
is.
from asbestos-related cancers. And to put that in perspective, that's more than people die on road traffic accidents. On
Yeah,
our roads.
that's more than double. Last figure I saw, it was around the 2,000 mark.
Yeah.
So 2,000 people dying in RTAs each year.
Yeah, which is horrendous.
Yeah.
But generally, if there's a bad smash on the motorway and a few people die on it, that gets headline news, doesn't it?
It does.
Where, we've got people quietly, painfully, horrendously dying
Yeah.
from
They're
exposure
literally
to asbestos.
slipping away from an asbestos disease, and it's not in the press.
It's never in the press, and it doesn't get the
Doesn't get the publicity that it
doesn't get the
warrants.
publicity.
No.
Yeah, that this is serious, really, and I do think people don't take this seriously. And the trouble is with asbestos exposure is you don't get that instant pain.
No.
You don't get that instant, oh God, I've done something today.
But that's it. It's like, I always compare it to like electrics. Well, I mean, the other regulated industries, nuclear, explosives, offshore.
Yeah.
If you do something, one of those three, it's going to go pear-shaped pretty bloody quickly.
Yeah, you're going to know about it, definitely.
Yeah.
Or not.
Or not, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, take explosives, for instance. If you rig up the explosives wrong for a demo and you've done it wrong and you push the button at the wrong time, you're dead.
Bang, you're dead.
But even a lesser kind of regulated industry, such as electrics,
Yeah.
again, I hate dealing with electrics. Like, I never do anything around the home with them. I'm just scared of them. I've had a little shock before. I don't want one again.
Yeah.
But again, it's that if you do it and you do it wrong, you get that instant like crack, that feedback of either death or injury. Whereas asbestos, you could get exposed, nothing. There's no difference in you. It's not like you start growing something, you don't get that instant pain, you don't get anything like that. It's all these several years later. And the problem is, I think a lot of people do think I'll be all right. It's not going to be me.
Yeah.
Whereas, over 5,000 people are dying each year that probably thought, well, it's not going to be me.
Yeah, definitely. So the other asbestos-related disease, asbestosis, which isn't a cancer, that's the recorded deaths for that, 517 in 2017. So that was asbestosis that was mentioned on the death certificate.
And that really shocks me as well, asbestosis, because that was generally thought to be people who worked in the factories and were using it every day.
Yeah, definitely. Asbestosis is dose-related, so it's related to high exposures for long periods of time. So it's basically scarring of the lungs, but it's not a cancer. So that has slightly increased from the last 10 years, only slightly, but that is thought to definitely be coming down because we're not
manufacturing it or using it.
No, exposures these days come from short duration, accidental exposure to asbestos, and that is thought to be coming down in this country now. And the latest projections suggest that there will continue to be around 2,500 deaths per year for the rest of the century. So the the end of this year and next year. Most of them come from males.
Yep.
So you're looking at about 2,087 male deaths, and only 439 from female deaths.
Yeah.
And that's probably relating to the historical work.
Yeah.
So
more males are working in the
if you look
construction
back to,
industry.
if you look back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was the men going out to work.
Yeah, male dominated.
It was the men doing trades and stuff, and women stayed at home and cared for the family, etc.
So even for that, again, like that amount of women dying each year is shocking, considering on the whole they're getting kind of secondary exposure from the guys' uniforms or their work coveralls, stuff like that. I mean, there are cases as well of teachers. And again, if you think about a teacher, well, they're not going into buildings, they're not knocking buildings about. And a hell of a lot of teachers have died from asbestos disease, and it's just madness.
Yeah, that mix, that sort of ratio between male and females is pretty consistent. It has been consistent for the last 4 years. And I suppose some of those would be females working in factories and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
That would come from that rather than like building trades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because men who worked in the building industry, they're really at the high risk, extensively at risk of contracting mesothelioma.
And I mean, on those statistics, they're, like you just said, that's what's been recorded on the death certificate.
Yeah.
But also that there's, for me, the figure's higher than that.
Yeah.
Because
the risk is still on the lung cancer one, definitely.
yeah. I mean, on the few of them, because somebody might contract mesothelioma, they might start suffering the ill health effects from it. However, if their heart gives up and they die of a heart attack, that's what's recorded on the death certificate. It doesn't record that they also had mesothelioma.
Yeah.
So I think the rate of disease is actually a lot higher than what those statistics actually say as well, for that reason.
100%.
So again, it's never going to be better than that. It's worse than that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Particularly with the lung cancer one as well. Look, example of, there's a real risk. It's, if you are exposed to asbestos and you smoke, you're going to significantly increase the chances of developing a type of cancer.
Yeah.
Either that be mesothelioma or lung cancer. And usually when there's any investigations into what's caused the lung cancer, is the first question the doctor will ask is, do you smoke? And if the person says yes, then commonly that's what the cancer's then associated to.
That's where they hang their hat, don't they? They don't look into it any further because, as everybody knows, that is a very common disease that's an obvious one.
Yeah. I read a paper recently that suggested that some smoking-related cancers develop sort of higher within the lungs, whereas asbestos-related lung cancers tend to be down at the bottom of the lung.
Right, okay.
And there's still not that much investigation into looking into those.
The differences, why some are high, why some are low.
Yeah. So that was just a fact that I read the other day.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of
that covers it. It's
the
just
figures and stuff.
like we say, the figures have increased. They're supposedly going to come down. I'm not personally convinced.
And the kind of the purpose of this podcast was just to hammer home the point of, this is not a load of bullshit. Asbestos management is so, so important to protect people, protect the occupants of your buildings, just to make you safe and your occupants safe and your staff safe and even your family safe.
Exactly.
If you're doing stuff and you're putting yourself in danger at work and you're potentially exposing yourself to asbestos, okay, you might not give a shit about yourself, but do you want to be taking that home to your family, to your wife, to your children? Because potentially that is a risk.
Definitely. And that's the thing. And like we said right at the beginning, we're now 20 years on from the ban, but there's still...
It's still a problem.
It's still a problem. There's still exposures. People are still dying. The figures haven't come down. That's the big thing. Just surrounds all of it. And that's why we do this podcast. We really want to share the knowledge, share the information, get it out there. So if you know somebody who could do with listening to this and kind of get it hammering home to them that it's not a problem that was all sorted back in the 60s or 70s, that some people still have that opinion.
Yeah,
of,
100%.
Oh, that was all done and dusted, weren't it?
Yeah.
Is there much about?
Yeah.
All that, it's like, yeah. So please share this podcast with them and let's get the knowledge and the information out there to people so that everybody is taking it seriously and it's not just the professionals and the people that are in the know are doing it. We share it out to the wider community and get that knowledge out there.
Great. That's us for now, and remember, asbestos first, not last.